Hello, Ivy here. This week's podcast is entitled One Group Always Plays Draughts and the Other Plays an Adept Game of Chess. Episode 67. Introduction. From the moment that Harry announced that his new girlfriend was Meghan, a successful USA actress in a hugely successful TV network franchise entitled Suits, together with many films to her name. A very popular network staple, which had been running for 7 years at that point. Once the shock of that announcement had sunk in with UK media, and the obvious annoyance that the royal Rota was totally unaware that the couple had been seeing one another seriously for 6 months, and that they had also been away to Botswana for a secret romantic break, unknown to the family or the press. At some point upon their return, Harry clearly informed some members of his family, and knowing what we now know, it was not long before the Rota pack were informed, and the salacious and racist rhetoric began in the press in earnest. Camilla Tominey, one of the Royal Rota crew, was proud to tell everyone who had no choice but to hear her say it over and over in front of cameras that she was the one who found out first in the Rota and went on to inform her colleagues. The coverage was toxic, and typical gutter-standard toxic bile spouted out with the excitement of a child at Christmas. Suddenly, the Royal Rota had found their cash cow. Between June and November 2016, the coverage was suffocating, and in November, Harry felt the need to write an obviously stern statement explaining that the coverage was not satisfactory, and among many things, it was also racist in its coverage. The Rota crew had begun to try and find out what they could on Meghan. We know now that they were not looking for any good stories. Toxic tales or toxic lies for cash would suffice. The intent was clear. The Rota crew for decades always had the upper hand and control over what they wrote regarding the royal family, but no one to date had the magnetic charisma that Meghan had, and joining with Harry made this media a dream ticket to health. Wealth generated out of negative coverage rather than the official welcome Meghan story that did the rounds for almost 4 years. But it was not long before the tabloid press returned to their personal mecca of toxicity and lies, with the full knowledge, if this took off the way that they anticipated, a number of people were about to become very affluent as a result. And if the unwritten contract between the British royal family and royal reporters commenced its life during that period, then this was the start, which could still yet end up in the areas and style of coverage, to one that tried to give negative coverage to Meghan several times a day, and at best used shade of a compliment wrapped up inside, however, was highly charged negative tones created. Charged enough for people of colour to pick up on it straight away, but not enough to grab the attention of the tabloid readers who happily read and absorbed and started to form opinions without being fully aware of the intentions of the tabloid itself. If someone lacks the skills to use discernment when they read torrents of articles like this several times a day, then it comes as no surprise the avenues that some people travel down, all linked to hate, in the form of individuals and or groups. The monarchy and its partners were using their standard playbook, one which slowly chipped away at the mindset of its readers, to the point that the readers considered it to be information, with no concept that some or all of the content of the articles were false, and knowingly false. None of the groups behind this style of hunter and prey activity in respect of the Sussexes doubted that the plan would work. No one thought that the plan could fail. The aim was to try and destroy Meghan's reputation, but trying to find people that she hardly knew, and in all cases were people that she did not socialise with and had not done so for many years, if at all. The playbook approach had always worked with spares over the course of history, but the British royal family were about to understand that Meghan was not like any of the vacuous females that normally marry into the British royal family, and the men of the family generally had relationships outside of the royal marriage, and no one questioned such morals or ethics. The women were proud to have made it onto the rung of the royal ladder. For them, the ambition was titles and never having to work for your money, and to know that it was a job for life, for basically smiling and waving at people, and to do the odd walkabout. These instigators were about to find out that the Sussex combination was nothing like anything that the royal family had ever seen or experienced before. The royal family were about to play games with a team that knew exactly what they were doing and did meticulous project planning and had a group of highly accomplished individuals working with them. The narcissists in the monarchy and its press would be in for a huge shock, and to add to their misery, every poison arrow that was sent in the way of Meghan or Harry or both never hit home. And with each arrow sent, they acted like beacons in the sky and alerted global citizens around the world to notice that virtual arrows were flying about. It was like having a firework display every night, and in doing so caused people who rarely looked at the day-to-day goings-on of the royal family. Here, their own Rota personnel were busy earning money from the couple deemed as irrelevant, and over the next 3 years, their curiosity caused those watching beginning to question the double standards used on other members of the British royal family and the Sussexes. That it ultimately did actually shine a light on the abuse going on in a way that left no physical scars, and ultimately increased the interest by people who were not interested before. The couple were always going to be successful. Sussex supporters knew that from the start, but none of the 1,000-year-plus British monarchy did, nor its media. The haters increased too, but were mainly only popular in the UK and Australia, whereas the Sussexes were fast becoming very successful on the global stage. In a nutshell, the cruelty and game playing by the monarchy men in grey suits and its press created more attention on the Sussexes and ultimately increased their value on the global business platforms. Whoops. Not quite what the British royal family and its royal reporters had in mind. This week's podcast will explore the triggers for each group and the steps that people take to tarnish, defame or destroy their target, using the same playbook that had worked for decades before, but was absolutely no match for modern-day business strategy. We will look at the theory and the signs to look out for, and intended and possible outcomes for each aspect of the plan. This will be looked at in comparison to the rollout of the Sussex projects and the enormous financial benefits that are growing from one project to the next, and how they all link together under the Archwell Foundation banner. Next section, key milestones for the Sussexes from 2016 to January the 8th, 2020. The announcement of stepping back from senior royal duties. This is an extract from one of the reference sources that are listed at the end of the article, and it is from The Guardian, dated 9th of January 2020. First milestone, July 2016. Set up on a blind date by a mutual friend in London, the two hit it off immediately and bond over their shared interest in charity work. That night, they open their diaries to schedule more time together, including a secret camping holiday in Botswana. November 2016. Harry's Communications Secretary issues an official public statement condemning the British press's torment of his girlfriend. The statement marks the beginning of the Sussexes' rising acrimony with the press, and Harry's personal disappointment that he has not been able to protect her. End of quote. Another quote from Harry. The past week has seen a line crossed. His girlfriend, Meghan Markle, has been subject to a wave of abuse and harassment, the statement read. Some of this has been very public. The smear on the front page of a national newspaper, the racial undertones of comment pieces, and the outright sexism and racism of social media trolls and web article comments. This is not a game. It is her life and his. September 2017. Meghan appears on the cover of Vanity Fair magazine, telling the magazine the intense scrutiny that comes with being Harry's girlfriend, and describes it as it can be challenging. It has its challenges, and it comes in waves. Some days it can feel more challenging than others, she said. And right out of the gate, it was surprising the way things changed. But I still have this support system all around me, and of course, my boyfriend's support. 27th of November 2017. Harry and Meghan announced their engagement. In an interview with the BBC, Meghan describes the couple's journey as authentic and organic, and says not following the British press meant she learnt everything she knows about Harry from Harry himself. Meghan says she was naive about what it would be like to be involved with a member of the royal family. Harry says he tried to warn his future wife as much as possible, but the couple were totally surprised by the intense interest and scrutiny. We were hit so hard at the beginning with a lot of mistruths, Meghan tells the BBC. 19th of May 2017. The couple marry at Windsor Castle, becoming the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. Meghan's father is not in attendance at the wedding. Meghan walks herself down the aisle, guided at the end by Prince Charles. 15th of October 2018. The couple begin a tour of the Commonwealth and announce Meghan is pregnant with their first child. In the coming months, Meghan is accused by the tabloid press of flaunting her baby bump and touching her stomach excessively, described as virtue signalling by some. Suzanne Moore, one of the Guardian journalists, said she's not allowed to have those feelings, though, because her job is to breed in captivity. Suzanne condemned the criticism of Meghan. The Duchess of Sussex is public property as far as the media are concerned. The subtext is that she is devious. March 2019. The couple split from Kensington Palace, and rumours of a rift between Harry and Prince William emerge. More than £2.4 million of public money is spent on upgrading the Sussexes' new official residence at Frogmore Cottage. May 2019. The couple's first child, Archie, is born. At a later press call, the couple begin showing signs they may be planning to distance themselves from the monarchy when they announce that their son will not have a title and will instead be referred to as Master. June 2019. The couple announce they intend to split from their combined charity with the Cambridges and start their own charity, Sussex Royal. August 2019. The Sussexes are accused of being hypocrites and take a battering from the press for using private jets on holidays. Weeks after Harry announced the couple planned to have only 2 children for the sake of the planet. I won't waste time elaborating on that, about travelling and planes. We all know what the truth was about that, and that has all emerged now into the public eye. September 2019. The Sussexes tour South Africa, where they take part in an intimate documentary and reveal the strain and pressure of their life. Meghan says her friends warned her not to marry Harry because of the British tabloids. I really tried to adopt the sensibility of the British stiff upper lip, but I think that what that does internally is probably really damaging. I never thought this would be easy, but I thought it would be fair, Meghan says. Harry describes his grief over losing his mother as a wound that festers, and every time I hear a camera, every time I hear a click, every time I see a flash, it takes me straight back. I will not be bullied into playing a game that killed my mom, Harry says, saying the couple have toyed with the idea of relocating at least part-time to Africa. For me and my wife, of course, there's a lot of stuff that hurts, especially when the majority of it is untrue. October 2019. The Duchess of Sussex sues the publisher of the Mail on Sunday, after the newspaper published a handwritten letter she had sent to her estranged father. At the same time, Prince Harry launches an unprecedented attack on the British press, the tabloid press, and its treatment of his wife, saying he could no longer be a silent witness to her private suffering. He wrote, "There comes a point when the only thing to do is to stand up to this behaviour, because it destroys people and destroys lives. Though this action may not be the safe one, it is the right one. I've seen what happens when someone I love is commoditised to the point that they are no longer treated or seen as a real person. I lost my mother, and now I watch my wife falling victim to the same powerful forces. November 2019. The couple announced they will not spend Christmas with other members of the royal family and will instead take a 6-week holiday in Canada. 8th of January 2020. The couple announced they intend to step back as senior members of the royal family and become financially independent while splitting their time. Next section. The British royal family, via the invisible contract with UK media, commenced the next stage in the drip indoctrination of a nation. The wording used in articles following the announcement on the 8th of January 2020 contain emotive language and words that devalued the person or target of their ire. That situation remains today as we approach the end of 2022. It went from shades and tones of racist terminology, hating, fighting or bullying rhetoric, to full-blown hate incitement, and at no point left readers in any doubt. The anger still harboured by UK media, royal correspondents in particular, is very much still there today. Having spent the first 3 years of Meghan entering the scene in 2016, every obstacle placed before the Sussexes did not achieve their desired result. Both the royal family and its media worked hand in glove, and everything they threw at the Sussexes just blew up, metaphorically, in the face of the monarchy and the royal reporters, and the Sussexes survived, despite the arrows coming over the hill every week. The 3 years since the announcement of the Sussexes stepping back in January 2020, to take effect from April 2020, has been a steady increase in the dangerous content put out and described as journalism. The bullying and harassment has continued across borders and is now operating on occasion outside of the law. Everything that the British royal family have thrown at this couple and their children has not worked. The Sussexes are always steps ahead in how they conduct business and how they wish to live their lives. The popularity has grown even quicker, and the vitriol and bitterness by the royal family and royal reporters has only led to people around the world wondering what all the fuss is about. Those who were never followers of monarchy began to take an interest and noted and expressed it publicly in a variety of formats, the double standards applied in respect of Harry and Meghan and other members of the British royal family, who had done similar with no animosity shown. This led to stronger support for the Sussexes, not less. One wonders what kind of PR the royal family employ, because their achievements over the years have been minimal, and in the case of the Sussexes, the British royal family have been left looking like they dropped the ball because they focused on being vindictive rather than a genuine attempt to try and alleviate the problems. Global media networks began to report on how they supported what the Sussexes were doing. Only within the UK was the impression given that the country should support the Queen no matter what. Whether or not the majority of the people felt that way is debatable, but one thing was abundantly clear. There were a growing number of voices and posts made on various social media platforms stating that the situation would be very different once the Queen passed. Neither of the two heirs are popular, and there is a growing movement within the population for major changes ahead. Commonwealth countries have begun to question the need for a UK head of state, and also question what have been the advantages to date, and that it's unlikely to change for the better in the future. There is no confidence that things will improve. Some have begun to make plans to separate, or have separated, and there are more having discussions about the possibility. Something else the British royal family and its supporters in the top-tier societal groups did not anticipate. That every cruel act committed against, towards Meghan during these past 6 years was felt around the world by people of colour, and also fair-minded people. The days of hurting or damaging spares in peace and isolation are long gone. Diana was the last one to have to face this type of behaviour alone. Every person of colour recognised what was being done, and most felt the wounds that the Duchess felt. In effect, the British royal family, by using the same old, stale playbook to bring dissenters in the family to heel, only led to increased publicity and garnered even more support for the Sussexes around the world, not less. Only in the naive bubble that the UK operates in did the press give the impression all was going swimmingly well. Just like the Brexit vote, the UK is living in a land of make-believe, which will come back to bite them big time in the coming decades. No matter what happens about rejoining the EU or not, it will take decades for the UK to get back to the position they were in prior to 2016. The same applies to the royal family. A decision was taken to ostracise the first person of colour into the UK monarchy, but wrapped it up in sheep's clothing, whilst all the time the wolf was creating destruction behind the scenes. The end result is that the Sussexes are still standing, and they have a global army of supporters watching 24/7, and who keep meticulous receipts about all the key activities and who was at the helm of those activities that royal reporters, under instruction, have tried to remove or hide. The internet is forever, and records exist. No more abuse of any individual done without challenge. Extracts from tabloid coverage. Just a few here, but far more in the reference links and sources of websites at the end of the article. What led the Duke and Duchess of Sussex to step back from the firm? And what does the future hold? As fans of Succession will understand, the more money a family has, the harder it is to escape. And of course, no family member nurtures the fantasy of tunnelling under the fence to independence more keenly than an indulged and redundant younger son. But at what price? Note the choice of words to describe Harry. Indulged and redundant younger son. Let that sink in. Another extract from another tabloid. Wherever possible, I refuse to even mention the title of such rags. They're there in the reference sources when or if you look. But personally, to even refer to them by name, to me, it's like using bad language. And as much as that invokes that type of response in my mind, I don't say or swear. Very rarely, probably a few times a year. But inside my head, it's every day. But for these purposes, I am just referring to extracts from tabloids, and I think I'm being polite when I call them that. Right. Harry and Meghan are demoted to the bottom of the royal family's website and placed alongside disgraced Prince Andrew and minor royals. There is so much venom and bitterness packed into that one sentence. You could do an academic piece of work on that, and of the tortured soul behind it who put that out as a publication and called it journalism. Excuse me. Sorry, that still happens quite a lot, but I am getting better, trust me. Right. So that sentence again, Harry and Meghan are demoted to the bottom of the royal family's website and placed alongside disgraced Prince Andrew and minor royals. There's a whole, like I said, a whole range of things that could be said about that, but I'm sure you all know the number of stories you can derive from every other word. Duke and Duchess of Sussex previously placed around halfway down the page, below senior royals. Page was updated following the death of the Queen earlier this month, and they've now been moved down. Prince Michael of Kent and his wife Marie Christine, neither of whom are working royals, removed entirely. It comes as King Charles is widely reported to be planning a slimmed-down monarchy during his reign. And a few lines that I've put in the article here after those extracts from one of the tabloids. And I've put NB, the farce of using the words demote and redundant, in relation to a couple who handed in their resignation in the most public manner on the 8th of January 2020. Just shows the desperation and petty behaviour of the bullies left behind, or felt that their prey would always be around because they are not allowed to leave the confines of the royal family. How out of step the monarchy and friends continue to be. Another piece of comedy from the tabloids, or one of them. Royal fury at Harry and Meghan's horribly disrespectful parting shot. Palace shock at couple's churlish insult after losing patronages, as it revealed how the Queen told her grandson, "You work for the monarchy doesn't work for you." Last night, Buckingham Palace announced Harry and Meghan had been stripped of their remaining roles. Statement said they could not continue the responsibilities and duties that come with a life of public service. The apparently furious Sussexes quickly issued a stinging rebuke to the Queen, saying, "Service is universal." Officials are said to feel the statement was disrespectful to the elderly monarch, while Philip was in hospital. Again, those last 4 bullet points, full of comedic content, satire, everything but what the royal family thought it was doing when they released that. Meghan Markle and Prince Harry are thriving since leaving the royal family, according to Omid Scobie's new book, Finding Freedom, following Meghan and Harry's split from the royal family. Next section. 13 signs that someone wishes to destroy you. This is an extract from another of the reference sources listed at the end of the article. I am just going to read out the bullet points, but in the article there is a lot of detail against each one. And in this, there are sort of 2 opening sections, each with a bullet point, then the 13 signs, and then it closes with some final thoughts and a conclusion. So remember, I'm just reading out the bullet points, but the article is very good, or I should say very interesting. So, let's begin. Why would someone want to destroy you? How to recognize a person who will ruin your life. 1. They are generally negative and toxic people and have nothing good to say about anyone or anything. 2. They always play the victim card to get your sympathy. 3. They will try to put you down your dreams and ambitions. 4. They talk about you behind your back. 5. The only conversations they ever want to have is about you, your accomplishments, and what you're up to. 6. They make you feel they have your back in private when they are with you, but in public they will never publicly defend or stand for you. 7. They are not genuinely happy for you. 8. They downplay your accomplishments. 9. They are only ever friendly when they need something from you. 10. They try to separate you from other important relationships in your life. 11. You may accidentally catch a quick glimpse of contempt in their eyes and face, which is quickly masked with a smile or laughter. 12. They subtly plant seeds of doubt to eat away at your confidence and self-esteem. 13. They feel entitled to whatever it is they ask you to help them with. A subsection. What to do when someone is trying to ruin your reputation. How to deal with someone who wants to destroy you. 1. Say little to nothing about your life to them. 2. Turn the tables on them and always ask them about their life. 3. Keep them at serious arm's length. 4. Take note of the close friends in their circle who are also in your circle, and limit the information you pass to them. 5. Cut them off. Sometimes people try to destroy you because you have something they want and can't seem to get. Destroying you gives them a dark sense of satisfaction in knowing that because they can't have it and have destroyed your chances at it, you also can't have it. Another section. Harry and Meghan are very organised and plan everything that they do in business. Their business plans take account of the environment of each project and who needs to be part of the project team to develop the project framework. All good project managers know where the strengths lie and which people have those qualities. And in the same way, it is important to ascertain who would be against what you are proposing and why. Would they be useful to include in the project team in some way, or would they be destructive rather than helpful? Planning to read the environment and how to manage the helpers and the dissenters. The move to Canada did not happen overnight. The movement of all their essential belongings, including their dogs, was planned carefully. It had to be. The Queen and senior members of the royal family had been involved in discussions for months, but nothing was reaching conclusions. It seemed to be always kicked into the long grass, whilst everyone needed to think about things. The reports and articles put out by Rota personnel for months after the January 2020 announcement about the Sussexes stepping back as supposedly one that all the British royal family and the media got to hear about for the first time on the 8th of January 2020. Nothing could be further from the truth, but on form for royal reporting, and also forgetting a small detail that one of those reporters was already trying to, in inverted commas, blackmail the Sussexes to reveal that they were going to step back, and they were given supposedly 10 days to respond. Otherwise, the said piece of work was going to write an article about it. Their usual way of working. I'll say no more on that front, but needless to say, the 8th of January was not the first time the world and the royal family and anybody else in the media got to hear about it. That is not true. It was going on for months. But it's the kind of style and content one would expect from the people involved. Also, the people in grey suits in the background that hover around like ghosts. Arranged with Tyler Perry to move to one of his properties in California. Strategic. What King Charles did at that time, when he was Prince Charles, was stick to the old royal playbook. Cut off finance without warning. Remove security. And then inform the royal reporters of the location of the Canada property. No expectation that the Sussexes would be able to manage with no money and no security. Sussexes were, as I said, strategic. Everything that they needed was already in hand and finalised. Tyler Perry ensured that transport was available to transfer the Sussex family from Canada to their new location. A location which once again, ultimately, the British royal family released to the press. Little did the family know that the Sussexes had secured one huge business deal already, and there was another close to completion. This allowed them to look for property to purchase, which allowed them to buy a new home in California and to move into that said home while paparazzi were still hanging around the Tyler Perry property. By the time that the world got to hear about this purchase, the penny started to drop for the royal family. that Harry and Meghan were putting down roots on another continent, and they had the finances which made them wealthy for life based on that first contract. True to form, the British royal family advisers got involved and stated that the Queen had to see all documentation before anything could be finalised. I can imagine the sheer joy to be able to feed back to courtiers and the like that the contract had been finalised and sorted and approved and signed. There was nothing to discuss with anyone at this stage, and an added note that the USA company has no legal requirement to discuss anything with the royal family in the UK. UK Monarchy is not the CEO of every company out there. So after all the fuss and high-profile shock, and then anger about the huge contract being won, and that the Sussexes had now purchased their own home, made the British royal family look out of sync with modern business methods, along with the audacity that the monarch had the right to oversee any contract documentation to approve it all or not, was entitlement and audacity on steroids. Royal heads probably just exploded when the Spotify deal came to light. Reports trying to trash the idea of podcasts, despite members of the royal family taking part in some, and at least one running his own podcast on a regular basis. All the establishment promising never to listen in on any of the podcasts were all posturing from the old playbook of devaluing and gaslighting people about their choices as being bad for the monarchy. British royal family and definitely royal reporters listened and watched every production of the Sussexes, and in so doing added to the viewer-listener figures, giving them all higher profiles much, much quicker than they would have made anyway. The farce of it all. Royal Rota reporters started podcasts as well, to sit and pontificate and be toxic about the Sussexes. It is hard to imagine that this group of so-called journalists are paid to write about the tax-funded royals, yet it is the couple who they bullied out of the UK that puts food on their tables each week. It is the couple that they all write books about, but are totally against Harry writing his own account of his experiences now that he is a husband and a father and has a charity to run with Meghan. I would be amazed if the Rota spent up to 5% of their time writing about and promoting what the rest of the working royals do each week. Even in the 10 days of mourning for the Queen, the tabloids wrote 5 articles an hour each about the Sussexes, all negative, and yet one would have thought for at least 2 weeks of the year, for a person they all professed to love so much, they could not find the same energy to write 5 an hour about the monarch who reigned for 70 years. I wonder why. We are all watching the couple who the UK chased out of the country thrive, and we see a once successful country damage itself by leaving a huge trading marketplace with the expectation that countries would come running to work with the UK. Mistake. That is empire thinking, and those days are well gone. We now have musical chairs going on within our government, and we are on to the third leader in 3 years, unelected by the people of the UK, only their pals in their government fraternity. And the country continues to sink into oblivion because people who came here to work from other countries were encouraged to leave the UK, not least because the cost of the hurdles that they were now required to overcome in order to stay here proved way too much for limited returns, and other countries snapped these people up with their qualifications and experience, and the manual labourers were welcomed in other countries, including Europe, which the UK voluntarily walked away from. Leaves the prospect of trade deals flowing in as being pie in the sky thinking. Remember all those 6 years and counting of trashing the USA and certain professions such as acting and theatre work generally, let alone all the people of colour the UK alienated, both here in the UK as well as outside of it. Remember that report that declared race relations was top tier here in this country. And everything was all so wonderful. Remember also all the professors and experts quoted in that exemplary report that are quoted as giving their input and support, who then publicly announced that they had never even been approached, never mind contributed to any part of it. Well, if you are going to treat certain nations and certain groups of the people as being different and somehow inferior to the British royal family, then the treatment of the only person of colour to enter that family is not a good advert. To trash a nation 1 minute, but expect them to run to you with trade deals after all the things in print and deeds done, and still done, to the same USA citizen on her home soil, the UK is having a laugh. To trash the EU and then go back on decisions legally made previously is also not a trust-inducing look for the UK either. The Sussexes are heavily involved in philanthropic endeavours, including the building of community structures, which includes kitchens, to feed people impacted by disaster of some kind. And those same buildings can be turned into community hubs afterwards. World Central Kitchen is at the heart of these projects, based in areas of disaster around the world. The Sussexes proving every day that service is universal and not just something that only royals can do. All of their initiatives and groups that the Arch Royal Foundation work with are also linked in that they are some charitable endeavours where they could join forces and help out communities together. Strategic. The Sussex Global UK podcast channel and all the topics discussed are all based on key themes of the Arch Royal Foundation. The podcast looks for linkages between various groups trying to harm the Sussex family and their philanthropic work, and apply academic research as to the motivation of each group, as to what they want to achieve, and what satisfaction it brings to them and why. We look at online hate and how that has increased and why. Legality is explored in detail on a regular basis, not least because much of what has been done to the Sussexes is in breach of the law, in some way or another. The number of articles that are published in one day is in itself abusive. But we look further at the words used and the hidden messages within the toxic rhetoric. In doing so, it is possible to sometimes predict where the activities are leading and why, and who would need to be on board to ensure the path of travel is clear, or the resources are found to continue with this line of activity. This podcast channel is strategic. We do not deal with the day-to-day. Whilst it is important, it is not necessary for all our eyes to be looking in the same places. That is what the Rota and its masters want us to do. By Sussex Channels widening the scope of our activities, we cover far more. The establishment is now beginning to realise that this global support network is on duty 24/7, and we cover all the essential bases and more on top. The business model of the UK monarchy has been used for over 1,000 years, not because it is fit for purpose or the best approach at any particular time, but because it is enforced to remain in place, and the majority of the people who want it to remain that way are those groups who benefit from the same system. The majority of royal supporters are in the same age bracket of the majority of working royals. It reduces the younger the age profile. That suggests to me that natural processes will remove most of the support base over a few decades. Very few, in fact. Trying to keep things as they were will prove problematic. The business model needs a review. There is absolutely no need for the number of reporters in the Royal Rota now, which is over 20, never mind when the monarchy is slimmed down shortly. The Rota publications all write publications on the same things, and the same buzzwords and phrases appear in all of them. I wonder why and how. No doubt, brainwashing of different parts of the population is part of it, but they are all still fairly similar because the publications are all tabloids. When the royal reporters spend most of their working hours writing tales about the non-UK tax-funded royal couple, something is fundamentally wrong when the public interest is on the people who the royal reporters and its royal family chased away. And to close the podcast for this week, instead of behaving like crabs in a bucket, be like Sussex Squad, who support each other to ensure the final goals are achieved, which is to help others in need of a helping hand. That is what communities do. We aim to make the world a better place. We support all Sussex endeavours. We plan ahead and have excellent project managers within our network, along with a wide range of professionals and expertise on many topics, and we are globally based. Don't be like crabs in a bucket, but be more like Sussex Squad, where we aim to support others wherever we can. P.S. We are all volunteers, and we're not tax funded. That's it for this week. As you can see, my voice is a lot better. My breathing is not, hence why I run out of air and I have to stop and all of those things. But I do feel a lot better. I just sound very ill on occasions, but I do feel a lot better. So, I look forward to speaking to you all in the comments, as per usual, on Sunday. Monday, possibly, my website will be sorted. Today, I've opened up an email with a list of things to do for me to try by the technical support team. And as I am feeling better, I think I can sit at the computer long enough to work my way through that list, look at a few codes and things and whatever. But I'm hopeful that over the weekend, the website will be up and running, in which case you will see 3 articles that are waiting for you to read. If not, you definitely will see them during the next week, because even if I have to pay extra, I will get the tech team to finally do it, because I'm not going to let another week go by. and this thing still be running on. Before, I wasn't well enough to try. I am now. So this weekend, I am going to attempt to go through this list. This is my third set of instructions from them, and if this doesn't work, I'll just be saying, you know what, sort it and send me the bill. Right, hopefully you found that interesting. The article has images and lots more information and some interesting web links for you to peruse for your amusement. So, speak to you in the comments, and also speak to you in the comments during the next few days. So bye from me, bye from Ivy, bye.